Okay. So, so now what are the different type of data types that we have in Java? Let's continue with it. So Java has basically, it's the data types in Java is divided into two sets, that is primitive and non-primitive data types. So under primitive, we have four categories. One is character, then the other is Boolean expressions. For that, we use the Boolean data type. Next is the float and the integers. The integers are the ones that we have very commonly seen, and you use the data type like int, short, byte. These are very commonly used. Then the next is non-primitive or reference data types. So under this comes arrays, strings, classes, interface, enums, and objectives. So in details, I'll be going through all of them. So first is the primitive data type and its size. So let me start with Boolean. So what does a Boolean do? It's basically its result always comes in either false or true. True or false. Okay, by default it's always false, and if the result of your output is 1, then it means it is true, and it will you will get the result, it required result. So since it is just true and false, it just takes up one bit in the whole memory. Okay, the next is byte. So a byte takes 8 bits. So the range is from -128 to 127. Okay, that is the entire range of a byte. When you are writing, you're taking the data type byte, that is the entire range. And by default, it is 0. Then next we go for short. Short is 16 bits. So you can see it is 32,768 to minus 32,768 to 32,767. So that is how it is going. Slowly you're increasing the range. Okay, then is the character bit, and then comes the int. So int is 32 bits, that is 2 to the power 31 minus 2 to the power 31 to 2 to the power 31 minus 1. Okay, that is how you are seeing. So when we initially, you can see based on our requirements, we should always choose the data type, because if we are using a small number, you know, for your whole work you probably need maybe the size of your variable is small, but then again you're taking a values of, you're taking int or long. What happens is, without any purpose, you are taking up a lot of space in your memory, which is not required, which only ends up in making your program run slowly. So you should be very careful while selecting a data type, so that your program runs faster and you don't waste the memory space. Okay. Next is float and double. These two, they are used for basically for decimal points. If whatever your decimal, you can see here the range is pretty high for even float and double. So based on your requirements, you can use it. And once again, float is for smaller data types, which is of just 32 bits, and double is 64 bits. And if you have suppose a value, suppose you want to mention the weight of something, for example, you want to say that the weight of maybe 6 or 7 apples is 1.7 kg. Okay, so then for that 1.7, you cannot use an integer or a character or a short. You have to use float or a double. So based on your requirements, you should be very careful in the kind of data type you're choosing. Next is the non-primitive data type. So under this comes class. First is programmer defined, and the other is built-in. So under programmer defined comes class and interface, and under built-in comes strings and arrays. So let's go into the details of all these. So first of all is the Java class. Now, what is a Java class? I've already mentioned, like in small words, like what a Java class is. So Java is basically the template of Java is a data type that defines a template or blueprint for an object. So here you can see there is an example. There is an example of a card. So when you're defining a class card, it is just generalized, right? You're not specifying any of its parameters or the specifications. So when you're making the specifications, you're declaring the specifications. That means you're declaring objects. Suppose in a car you want to mention what is the color of the car, whether it is red, blue, green, yellow. So that is one of the parameters. Then you can define what kind of which brand it is, okay, whether it is Toyota, it is Mercedes, whether it is Maruti, that. So all these parameters, when you keep on defining under the same class, that means you're creating an object. So all this falls under the Java class. So when you're trying to initiate a Java class, you use the keyword class to start with it. And as I've already mentioned earlier, that what are the rules you have to follow when you're mentioning a class, you have to follow those. And so a Java class acts as the blueprint that instantiates the objects. Okay, the objects are like the instances. And so this is how you write a Java class. Next is the syntax. So you can see this is how a Java class is written. The class syntax is written. So this is the first is the access modifier. It can be public or it can be something else. The next is the keyword, which is of course the class, and this is the name of the class. And the class body, in the class body, it can be several things. It can be variables, methods. Based on your requirements, you can mention whatever you want in that. So in the end of it, you have to also make sure that you don't use a semicolon. Within this only, you'll be terminating each statement with a semicolon. Often you end up making this mistake that after ending the curly braces also you're putting a semicolon, then it will show an error. So you have to make sure you don't do that. Okay, so next is abstraction. So what do you mean by class abstraction and interface? So first of all, let me go into abstraction. So abstraction means hiding the internal implementation of a feature and showing the functionality to the user. So how can I explain you in simple words? So so we are all used to texting. We text message to each other. So as a user, we are not concerned with the internal process that goes through when you are sending a message to someone via a text, right? We are just into that, we write so and so and we're just sending it over. So that is the main thing. So in Java, it just works, okay? It does not show how it works. It's mostly the end product that we know, not the entire process. So that is class abstraction, okay? So both class, abstract class and interface are used for abstraction. So next is Java interface. So what is Java interface? It is again a blueprint of a class. It has static constants and abstract methods. So in Java class, we have to make sure of certain things which we use while writing the code. So the first thing is we have to make sure that we use the keyword implements. Okay, here you can see in the code, you're seeing the code where it is written implements. Without using this implements keyword, your interface will not work. Okay, that is one of the factors. Then also there's another thing, that is Java methods are by default both public and abstract. Okay, so they are always when you're writing a Java Java interface, the code is public and abstract. And the most important part is that Java code basically deals with client and developer. Okay, so when suppose a client is coming to you and he wants a particular software made, okay, and you as a developer has to create that software and give it to him. So when you're doing that, you don't really go into the details of how you're performing it, right? They ask for a certain features in the software, you do that and you're giving it to them. They are not going through the entire process of it. So that is basically why it is we use the word interface. Okay, and then again in interface, all the fields are declared with the empty body and all the fields are public, static and final by default. These are some of the parameters that we have to consider while writing a Java interface. Next is a string. Now a Java string is a Java string represents a collection of characters and is actually a type of java.lang.string. Okay, this is like a kind of an object that we have in Java. So what we do is, suppose in here you can see an example. Okay, so This is an example where you're mentioning the string str3 equal to Java programming. So you have to see one thing that in string, it is never numerics. Okay, even if you're using numerics, it is treated as a character. That is, in previous we have already learned about the data type character. That it will be treated as characters. Okay, these are, even if you're writing numbers, they will not as numbers. They'll be treated as characters. Okay, and then you can just print it out. So let's do one simple program. Okay, so okay, somewhere I've done this. Okay, so this name print is one of the programs that I've done. So let's go into it. Name print dot Java. So you see here, let's remove this. Okay. First, anyways, let's see. This is one of the string. This is one of the programs for in which you're using string. So here you see the first string I'm keeping my name, and the next string I'm using my friend's name. Okay, she's Shweta. So we're using each other's names. I'm creating a program that way. Then yes, we are adding both the names together. Okay, we're trying to write a program where we write both the names together. So then what we're doing here is it's f name plus, then we are writing the next name. So your full name is so and so. You can write whichever way you want. If you just want, you can just make just one line. Okay, it's up to you. So we save it, and now I run it. So what we do is Java C name print. Okay. Then it is Java name print. You see, it is coming this way. So let's get back to the program and we can make some changes. Suppose I am just using this and I'm not even using this. Okay. So what I'm doing is here you have to make sure what string you're adding. So here I'm changing it to f name again. So there you go, you save it. Okay, and now let's get back to the program here. And then Java name print. You see, your full name is something down. So that way you can make any changes, any kind of program you want to write, you can write it using a string with any kind of, what you're doing is instead of writing just your full name is Sampit and printing it out, you can keep as you make a string and you can make the changes in the string, and accordingly you just have to keep on adding it to print it out. You don't have to like make a correction in this print statement. Okay, you can have multiple, you can make changes according to your wish. In the previous program you had just seen that I have used my friend's name as well. In this one I'm using my own, just my first name. So based on your wish you can make any kind of programs. Okay, so next let's get back. Okay, so it's a Java string, and okay, let's take a break and we'll come back with Java operators.